So basically, I'm just going to give a big picture overview of the SEMS, and then, like we said, Anne's going to get into some of the contracting aspects. I think we covered this already. Lisa covered what we're going to be talking about with you today. Big picture, GSA's mission is to use its expertise to provide innovative solutions for our customers in support of their missions, and by doing so, foster an effective, sustainable, and transparent government. And the thing that I wanted to highlight here is the sustainable part. About 2 years ago, GSA did revise their mission to include sustainability. So, probably about 6 years ago, we really hit a tipping point organizationally where GSA really realized that we've got to become more of a sustainable organization. So, hence, we went ahead and included sustainability in our mission, and then also our plans in terms of how we're going to meet the laws and the regs. We do have a GSA environmental policy. For some of you, this is not new information. Again, we're just doing a refresher. We've talked with you about this, probably 3 or 4 years ago. We did a similar presentation. I don't know if any of you recall that presentation, or were you here at that time? Okay. So as you know, this is just a refresher, but back in 2006, GSA put together a policy statement, and this is just a copy of that statement, basically saying that GSA is going to commit to complying with the laws and regulations, prevent pollution in our buildings and our operations, promote awareness, again, with our contractors and our federal employees, and then strive for continual improvement towards being a sustainable organization. And then in 2010, GSA went ahead and updated that policy statement. Another driver for that is that all federal agencies were mandated to put together sustainability plans, so that, in the past, maybe an agency would say, okay, we'll go ahead and meet those laws and regulations, but they didn't have to specifically outline how they were going to do it. They didn't have to put together an action plan. So like I said, back in 2010, all federal agencies were required to put together a strategic sustainability performance plan outlining exactly how they're going to meet all of the energy, water, greenhouse gas, all of those environmental compliance laws and regulations. So then we could be held accountable for sticking with our plan and meeting those requirements. So all federal agencies had to submit those, and they had to get approved by, I believe it was OMB had to approve all of those plans, and the White House was involved in reviewing those plans as well. So at that time, basically, GSA put together a revised policy statement saying that we're going to conserve energy and water, and we're going to operate our buildings as efficiently as possible. We're going to eliminate waste and pollution. We're going to buy environmentally preferable products. We're going to buy green products as much as possible. We're going to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And again, we're going to do continual improvement and reassessment. So again, that's why we're here today. 3 or 4 years ago, we had this presentation. There's been new regulations that have come since then. We need to grow with those and make sure that we're training you guys as well as all of the other folks that are involved in sustainability throughout our organization. So what is an SEMS? So big picture, an SEMS is a system to maintain environmental compliance, so that's that laws and regulations aspect, and then also improve environmental performance. So we want to strive for continual improvement, and we really look to you all to help us do that too. We know we have to have a close relationship with you and move forward to operate more sustainably. As part of that, what we have is, this is a model that's familiar for SEMSs within organizations, internationally, which is the Plan, Do, Check, Act. So we have a core team that has been focusing on the planning aspect. We're going to work with you all and the other folks that have key responsibilities as part of the procedures on the do aspect. And then we have a checking aspect where we also do auditing, and then acting, making this stuff happen. Many of you may be familiar with this. This is what we call the triple bottom line. We have a triple bottom line that we need to look at and evaluate when we strive towards sustainability and the choices that we make in operating our buildings and various operations that we do in terms of grounds and various things. So we look at the economic side. We want to lower our utility bills and our costs, and we want to use our space smart. We have the social aspect. When we want to improve our workspace, there have been many studies that show that workspace that is sustainable and green, employees are far more productive and happier, and they're out less on sick leave. They've also done a lot of these studies in schools. I know one thing is like Walmart. There's a study that came out with Walmart where they did some experimenting with just adding natural daylight, some skylights, to half of their store. And they found that regardless of what merchandise they put on that half of the store, that merchandise sold more. So it's little things that you might not think about, but natural daylight is important, making sure that our buildings have plenty of outdoor air that are getting pumped into them. That helps people, feel better, more productive. The last aspect, of course, is the environmental piece. We want to conserve our natural resources and emit less greenhouse gas emissions. Our environmental footprint. So we wanted to show this slide just because it visually depicts the various aspects of the SEMS. So we which includes water, energy, land, waste, and greenhouse gas. The team. So we have been doing training. We've already conducted some training with property managers on the DFC and throughout the region, as well as contracting officers. We wanted to come and meet with you all to do the training as well, and then we're also going to be meeting with project managers. So another part of updating all of our policies, our procedures, and our flow charts is then making sure that everyone is informed of those updates and then having a one-stop shop for all that information. So as Lisa said before, that's that r8sems.com will be our one-stop shop for information and where we'd like to direct you for, looking at the procedures and having the electronic copies available. The objectives of the SEMS. We want to improve our regional engagement, so that's why we're conducting the training. We want to improve SEMS planning for the environmental program areas, which our folks that are here that will be reviewing the flow charts are going to look at those and share those with you today. We want to improve the tracking of our performance metrics. So, we can't just do the training part. We have to be accountable both organizationally and when working with you on the metrics and on the tracking aspect of this. So that'll become clear through the flow charts. We want to improve our internal awareness of the environmental procedures and programs. And again, that's why we want this to be conversational. And if you have questions as we go, let's talk about them, because we know that this is always improving and we're often updating the procedures. So we want your feedback. We are also supporting the DFC in their pursuit of a gold rating from the Colorado Department of, why did I forget it now? The CDPHE is... Thank you, of Health and Environment. And that's something that we're working with Charlie and the DFC on, and this is an important piece of that. And then the last thing is we want to keep this simple. There's a lot of information, but we strive to keep the process and the procedures as simple as possible, because we don't want to create more work. A lot of this stuff is things that you do every day. We just want to make sure that we all have the same awareness of these procedures. And now I'm going to hand it over to Anne to talk about the environmental procedures and contracting.